Hello Simmers and welcome to London City Airport with the Carenado Fokker 50 or F50. Air UK livery today. Air UK was an airline founded in the early 1980s. Then KLM became a shareholder when they wanted to expand their share in the British market. Eventually KLM became a majority share owner. Name was then changed to KLM UK and after a while it was completely out of the books, and KLM UK became part of KLM Cityhopper and started to carry the name KLM Cityhopper. But the Fokker 50 actually flew in this livery, Air UK livery. I like it a lot. I really love the airplane by Carenado, at least the exterior, the 3D modeling, the animations, they are all fantastic on this add-on. And we will take this little airplane on a domestic flight in the UK, flying from London City to Leeds Bradford. Both of them are ORBX airports, and the other scenery in this video will be ORBX True Earth South, True Earth Great Britain South, and ORBX True Earth Great Britain Central, where Leeds is located. As you can see, the 3D modeling that already was fantastic on the outside also looks very nice on the inside. That is for both the flight deck as well as the cabin. That's also pretty nice, nicely modeled. If we open the flight deck door, we can walk in here. First, there's a little hallway with the main entrance. And I have some lag because the scenery is quite heavy. But if you look at the door with the stairs in them and the PBR material used, it's actually quite nice. Here's the public address. We can switch on and off some lights in the cabin and in the stairway area. You can also close, stop, and open the main door in here. And if we continue our walk through the virtual cabin, you will see that a lot of stuff is modeled in here as well. You can close and open the window blinds if you like to do that. The reading lights are modeled, and so is the flight attendant call button. Don't know if you like stuff like this. Personally, I don't really find this very important because, well, most of the time we are spending in the flight deck. So that's the most important thing for me. But I know that there are people who find it very important that a cabin is modeled, etc. I personally I don't, but in case you do, know that it is there. Starting to getting a little bit of cold in here, but anyway, the flight deck pretty basic. If you take a look at the main captain and first officer panels, it's actually very similar to a Boeing 737 3400 series. Then there's the engine instruments. In the Carenado F50 there are two flight management systems. They are the default X-plane ones. They are not custom made for this airplane. I thought that KLM Cityhopper had some sort of flight management system in their Fokker 50s before they retired them, but I'm completely unaware of what they could do and what they couldn't do. So there's nothing for me to say about this. All that I know is that the default X-plane flight management system is included, and that basically in this airplane you can only use it for lateral navigation because the airplane doesn't have an auto throttle, so you cannot use it for vertical navigation. But anyway, let's start our flight. Like I said, domestic flight, takeoff runway 27 in London City, depart to the northwest and via Trent and Pole Hill to Leeds Bradford, where we expect to arrive runway 32. In a nutshell, what we are going to do. The airplane by Carenado also ships with some documentation, so let me just put some of that open. And basically what you get are reference tables. including maximum flap extend speed, landing gear operation, minimum control speeds, all that sort of stuff. There's a performance table that shows the fuel flow per engine, at least some takeoff speeds at certain flap settings at certain weights, and also the fuel flow per engine at certain flight levels with certain weights of the airplane. Then there's an emergency procedures document. Don't know if you can actually use that because the systems are not very much in depth, not simulated in depth in this add-on. And there's a normal procedures checklist that you can use with some scan flows, flight deck safety inspection, flight deck preparation, the before start checklist, after start checks, before takeoff check, after takeoff check, the approach and landing checklists, and after parking flow checks. So that's all included if you buy this package from Carenado. So what we do first is as you just heard me say, the system depth is not too deep with this airplane, and I say that because if you look at this, the flight deck is basically alive. We have lights, the displays are on, but if you look at the overhead, there's external power available but not engaged, and the batteries are off. So basically the entire flight deck ought to be cold and dark, which it isn't. So that's not very realistic. So let's start by setting some switches to basically resemble the state of the aircraft better. And with ground power engaged, we will also switch on the nav lights. By the way, in the avionics department, you have the DU XFR crossover. If you press this button, it will switch the nav display and the primary flight display. In normal operations, you will usually have the primary flight display on top and the nav display below. But suppose that one of these screens breaks down during flight, it's always nice that you can switch so that you can always read the information that you require at that moment in flight. So that's nicely done. Let's switch this stuff on. Hydraulics, electric hydraulic pump can be switched on. Fuel pumps, we'll get back to that later. So the props and engines. Let's just run a lights test first. So alert system, press that button. We have a audible and visual warning on the fire controls, and if you take a look at the overhead, all the lights are now burning. The entire Christmas tree is lighting up. So you can actually check whether there are light bulbs that need replacement before the start of your flight. Everything looks okay. Let's just raise the armrest so we have a better view on the center pedestal. This looks very nice, so we press that button again. Then fire tests. The lights burn, but I don't hear an audible warning. Geoconfig is not yet needed. Smoke test. That's done. And the auto feather test, we have to do that after the engine starts. So that looks okay. Right, the air conditioning. Let's set the cabin temperature to 20 degrees. Set flight deck somewhere like that. Packs can remain off for now. So can the probe heaters. We'll switch the window heats on at low, and we'll arm the emergency lights. And that's the first part of the flow now set correct. So let's enter the flight plan in the flight management system. So go to route menu, pilot route list, select flight plan. We'll enter Echo Golf Lima Charlie as the origin, that's London City, and we're flying to Leeds Bradford, Echo Golf November Mike. We expect we are flight UK 45 Sierra, Execute, so we will depart runway 27 with the BPK. I thought it was 1 Alpha. Yes, it is. So execute flight plan, that's correct. Then we will fly Upper Lima 10 to Busat. After that, Tango 420 to Trent VOR. Upper Mike 868 to Tipil. And then the November 57 to Pole Hill VOR. So November 57 to Papa Oscar Lima. Execute. Go to the arrivals page. We expect an ILS for runway 32. There's no star, but we will fly the transition over Lima Bravo Alpha, which is Leeds Bradford to NDB. So execute and into the flight plan. Let's check the leg page for discontinuities. There is one, so like that. Execute. Alright. And that's basically all that we can do in the flight management system. Now, right now we have the FMS as the prime source for the navigation, just as we like to. Should you want to do VOR to VOR navigation and you want to fly using the VORs, you can switch the main source to either nav1 or nav2 radio. This is the panel for nav1, this is the panel for nav2, and if you want to, if you look at the panel, you have two frequencies. The top one is the active one, the lower one is the standby, and if you want to switch, just move your cursor over the left turning knob until you get the index finger icon, press your left mouse button, and that will have them flip the frequencies. If you take a look at the departure procedure, we have to climb to 3,000 feet, maximum speed 200 knots. And we will fly to Brookman's Park first, which is at 117.5. So let's dial that one in for nav radio 1, 1175. So switch it over. There we are. And as you can see now on nav radio 1, we are 15.8 miles away from Brookman's Park VOR. We will climb to 3,000 feet. That is already set, which is good. So with all that said and done, is there anything else that we have to keep in mind? Straight ahead, then direct to blah blah blah, turn left to BPK. Yeah, well, that's nice. So, with all that said and done, we can now listen to an ADIS. We use Active Sky XP, and that will give us the correct ADIS information.
Echo Golf Lima Charlie Airport information Foxtrot 1320 Zulu weather wind 239 at 13 visibility 10,000 sky condition 1600 scattered ceiling 2200 broken ceiling 3800 broken temperature 19 dew point 15 QNH 0993 advise on initial contact you have information Foxtrot.
So 0993 on the QNH, that's a very low pressure area here.
Echo Golf Lima Charlie.
Tell her to be quiet. So there we are, 0993. Oh. There we are. Now currently the nav display shows us the full arc. I want it on the map, so press this one. That will give you the flight plan as it's put into the flight management computer. If you want to zoom in or out on the nav display, you have to use these arrows. The left one is to zoom out, and the right one pointing downwards is to zoom in. I zoom in as far as I can because we have a short straight piece and then immediately you turn to the right. So with that said and done, we are actually quite nicely underway to start up our engines. First thing we have to do is set the weight and balance, and you do that in the weight and balance section in here. So let's check on the flight plan what it should be. We have 1132 kilos of fuel. Well, we have 1757. Let's slightly lower that. About 1600. That should do the trick. And we need a takeoff weight of 19,304. So let's put it like that. Lovely, very nicely done. So let's proceed with starting the engines. First thing we need to do is check that the doors are closed. It is not. Well, like I showed, you can move into the hallway, close the door from there, but we're not going to do that. If you press the O in this little menu on the lower left of your screen, you can close the front door and also remove static elements like pitot covers, etc., engine intake covers. And now the airplane is basically ready to go. Let me just make one screenshot. Might use this one to as a thumbnail for the video. So let's jump into the flight deck. Door is now closed. Let's continue on the overhead. We have everything in here okay, so we can set the fuel pumps on. Packs can remain off, but we can switch open the bleeds. Probe heaters can remain off, so can the generator. For now, so what we will do is we'll start up engine number 2 first. So let's switch on the anti-collision lights and engage the cabin signs. No smoking is on, seat belts are on. Select the main knob for the engine, press ignition on the right engine, and then you move this switch to the right. That will have the engine start the sequence. When this one reaches 20, you move the fuel lever up to the start position, so that's right now. And when you look from the outside, have a pretty decent animation for that engine start. So let's switch the generator on. And we can get rid of the ground power units. And repeat the procedure for engine number 1. So as soon as this one reaches 20, we will open this one to the start position. And on the other engine, we can now move the fuel lever to the open position because number 2 is now stabilized. And so is engine number 1, so this one can go to the open position as well. We switch the left engine generator to the bus, switch off the ignition in this system. Packs can be switched on, so can the probe heaters. We don't expect to use anti-ice. The electric or the hydraulic pumps, they are on. Sure that the trim is within the green box, and the auto feather tests are okay. We won't use any flex temperature, so I leave the EPR setting to takeoff. Should you do a derated takeoff, just move it to flex, and then you can move the flex temperature in there, but we'll just set it as takeoff. We'll set flaps 5. I will put the transponder on. Let's show a yoke. And let's perform a flight control check. Full lefts, full rights, neutral, down, up, neutral, and the rudder. Full left, full right, neutral. So that is all set and done. Jolly good. You can manipulate the cockpit lights with this little panel, by the way. Don't need them for now. We are basically good to go. So let's switch on the taxi lights. Verify that there are no warning lights on the overhead panel that shouldn't be there. Everything looks very good. So we release the parking brake and we'll start our taxi to runway 27 here at London City Airport. Nice little airport in the River Thames. Beautiful airport scenery by ORBX. What we will also do now is set the flight director commands. Already select nav. Now the only thing that ORBX need to adjust is the livery for KLM City Hopper. That's not correct. It says City Hopper on the fuselage and there's no City Hopper behind or below the KLM logo, but that's the only thing that I could find in this entire scenery, which is absolutely stunning, by the way. That is not correct. Flew in and out of London City Airport as a passenger a couple of times, and I can only say that it just looks so spot on.
Approaching 0,
very
9.
very nice scenery, really worth the money.
On runway 09, 2,400 feet remaining.
By the way, if you hover your cursor over the primary flight display or the nav display and you click, you get a pop-out window, which makes it better readable. We have to set our initial heading, and this is the heading knob, and you can read the heading setting in the lower left corner of the display. And we have to set it to 269er. There it is. As mentioned, the airplane doesn't have an auto throttle system, so you really have to stay on top of the airplane, just as in the Saab 340, to do some active power management on your engines. If you don't do that, you will overspeed or stall or whatever, and a lot of disasters will strike you. But we're okay so far, so let's vacate runway 9er and make the turns here to line up and wait for runway 27.
Approaching 27.
So let's line up. Seven is verified and correct, by the way. So
On runway 27.
Power levers. Here we are. Let's press the TO config button. There's no sound, so that's good. Switch on the landing lights, switch off the taxi lights. Cabin is ready. So stick forward and let's start our takeoff roll. Engines powering up, nice and stable. So chronometer on and takeoff power is set. Airspeed active. 80 knots. V1. Rotates. Positive rates. Gear up. Directly towards Canary Wharf. Canary Wharf, I don't know how you have to pronounce it correctly. Anyway, a left-hand turn now. Make sure that the airplane keeps climbing. Okay, flaps up. Still flying on manual control. Airplane is very nice in the response to the controls. Exceeding our maximum altitude of 3,000 feet, so let's close the power levers slightly. We have to go down to 3,000 feet because otherwise we will interfere with other traffic flying into the other London area airports. It's too busy monitoring speed and attitude and not minding the altitude setting. So my mistake. So a little high on the speed now, but we should be all right. Ah, crap! Climbing again. Really have to trim that nose down. Let's dial up the heading. Alright, 3,000 feet here we are. So let's engage the autopilot, set altitudes, hold. So flaps are up, gear is up and off, taxi lights are off, cabin signs are okay. And now we have to take a quick look at our engine power management, because the speed is decreasing. Four miles to Brookmans Park. We have to beat our 200 knots maximum at 3,000 feet. We are now doing 195, slightly lower than 3,000 feet. No, here we are at 3,000 feet, so that's one constraint met. Another 2 miles to go. And here we are, crossing Brookmans Park. Let's increase power. Set this one to our cruise altitude of 170. And press indicated airspeed hold. Set this one to climb. And right now we are climbing to flight level 170. Out of London City Airport. Outside air temperature is 12 degrees, so there's no need for anti-ice. Let's dial up the heading again. Seven minutes en route. We had to fly over Brookmans Park in 9 minutes, so we are a little bit ahead of our schedule. Let's see if we can keep it like that. Climbing at a steady 1,000 feet per minute. Transition altitude is 6,000 feet out of London City Airport. Since we are climbing to 170, we can already set the QNH to standard, which is 1013 or 29902. And with 8 degrees we still have visible moisture, so let's set the anti-ice to light for the airframe and set the engine anti-ice on for now. We are breaking through the clouds, passing 6,000 feet. launched. Clouds are, by the way, Active Sky XP combined with X-Plane 11 default clouds. I installed the, I think it's the high-res texture set from Active Sky XP. Really like that program. I really like the result in terms of the visuals for the clouds using this combination. It's a very nice balance between cloud coverage and performance. I used to use what was it called, SkyMax Pro, but that was such a frame rate eater that I stopped using that one. It looked smashing, but with a very small coverage area, I just didn't really like it anymore. It served me well throughout X-Plane 10 and the early stages of X-Plane 11, but I think my current settings are actually quite nice. Anyway, we will continue our climb to flight level 170 and the flight towards Leeds Bradford. I will skip the video here and I'll see you guys when we are setting up the approach into Leeds Bradford. So, see you in a bit. So here we are again, flight level 170 over the skies, in the skies over central Britain, roughly 20 miles away from Trent, VOR. So that's a point, Trent will be the point where we will start our descent. So let's take a quick look at the approach procedure that's in store for us. We'll fly towards Paul Hill, VOR. From Paul Hill we'll fly a right turn towards the Lima Bravo Alpha NDB. From there we will make a right hand turn on heading 154 until we are 9 miles out on the ILS. And then it's a left hand turn to intercept and establish on the 319er radial on frequency 110.9er. So let's start by dialing in 110.9er as an active radio for nav radio 1. There it is. And currently we are, let me just adjust the heading to the actual heading right now. Well, something like this. Let's switch to heading for a short bit. Then select nav 1 as the primary source. You see that the course is 006. We need 319. So let's dial that one in. Very annoying. Ah, there we are. No, this is 318. There we are. And let's get back to the nav mode again, with flight management system being the primary source for navigation. Okay, so the nav radio is now set. We have to start our descent. And we have to intercept the glide slope at 3,000 feet at 9 miles out. And we have to overfly first at 4,000 feet. So we have to descend to 4,000 feet before we reach LBA. Then a right hand turn, descend to 3,000 feet up here. Continue our turn. And once we are at 7.2 miles out, we have to be 2,300 feet. But let's set 4,000 as the altitude that we have to descend to. we are. And there are no auto brakes on this airplane, there's no speed brakes. So basically that is the approach preparation so far. Once we are closer to the airport, we will call in the ATIS and check that the QNH is set correctly. So see you in a bit. Well, change in plan, we can just as well listen to the ATIS right now. So with using Active Sky XP, if you put in a flight plan in the flight plan page, you can use 122.0 as a frequency for your ATIS on your departure airport. And when you switch it to 122.025, that will be the ATIS for the arrival airport.
Echo Golf November Mike Airport information India 1350 Zulu weather wind 020 at 10 gusting to 23 visibility 10,000 Echo Golf November Mike Airport information Juliet 1420 Zulu weather wind 010 at 10 visibility 10,000 sky condition 600 scattered ceiling 1200 broken light rain temperature 11 dew point 10 QNH 0995 advice on initial contact you have information Juliet
0995 on the QNH and some
Echo.
poor visibility in Leeds, so that will be challenging. So QNH is set, we have passed trend VOR, so let's set it back to indicated airspeed mode and close down the throttles to about, we'll say 30% torque. That will have the airplane start to descend to the desired altitude of 4,000 feet. With the correct QNH set, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Outside air temperature is -19. We have visible moisture, so let's just switch on the engine NTIs and the airframe NTIs just to be sure. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. So passengers in their seats and the cabin crew is now preparing the cabin, collecting waste, make sure that all the seat backs and tray tables are up, and that everyone is strapped into their seat belts prior to landing. What we still have to do, what I forgot to do a minute ago, is check the minimums, which happens to be 100 feet radio. Now you can dial that in with this knob and you will see the setting in here. So 100 feet, that is set. And let's take a look at the missed approach procedure. So climb straight ahead, climb 2,000 feet, then a climbing right hand turn to the Lima Bravo Alpha NDB, and then onto the 154 outbound radial till we are 9 miles out, turning left again onto the ILS for a second attempt. Visibility is rather poor, and the airport elevation is 681 feet. So we might have a very foggy landing, so that means Cat 3, so we should actually set our decision height to 50 feet, so let's do just that. Close down the power levers a little bit further, increase that rate of descent. I want to be at approximately 1500 feet per minute. With 10,000 feet to go. We're now flying to Denbigh and then it's Pole Hill. I'll continue the descent, and I'm back with you guys as soon as we are a little bit closer to the airport, ready to start our actual approach. So see you in a bit. So here we are approaching 4,000 feet, so let's switch to vertical speed mode and adjusted vertical speed to roughly 500 feet per minute. Temperatures 4 degrees Celsius, we are in the clouds, so the anti-ice is on and remains on. What I haven't found in this airplane are rain effects or windshield wiper controls. Not really sure where they are. Or where they ought to be. But what we have to do now is verify our speed, because we are now leveling off. As you can see, there's no auto throttle system, so the speed is decreasing rapidly. We don't want that at this stage. Pole Hill is coming up in 4 miles, then it's a right-hand turn towards the NDB. We have to remain at 4,000 feet for now. With speed approximately 185 over the NDB. So let's just see if we can maintain this. Don't want to overspeed. So let's pull it back to about 50% torque, see what happens. So here we are over Pole Hill, right hand turn towards the NDB. Maintain 4,000 feet, we have light rain. The landing lights are on, cabin is ready. So we are now good to go for the approach phase of this flight. Dial up the heading. Now the airport of Leeds lies on some elevated terrain above city, making it a very challenging airport to land, because the wind is always quite strong in that airport, and usually it's a crosswind. So one last glance at the chart. We are now flying towards the NDB. This is us. So it's heading 154 as soon as we are over the NDB. So let's dial up the heading to 154. So right now, once we are over the NDB, we only have to switch from nav to heading, and that will have us covered. Over North Yorkshire, or over Yorkshire. Glorious British weather is present as well. But look at all this scenery. I really like what ORBX True Earth Great Britain does to your sim. It's truly some amazing bit of scenery. 10 miles before we reach the NDB. There's not much to see outside. Oh, here we have some spells in the clouds. Gives us a glimpse of the scenery below the clouds. With the airport elevated at almost 700 feet, it can take a while for us to clear the clouds and have some clear views over the runway, but it should be visibility of 10,000 according to the ATIS. With cloud base somewhere between 600 and 1200 feet. But this for now looks rather nice. And here's that missed approach path already. So once we are here, right turn on this line and then the turn onto the runway. Should we have a missed approach, continue on the heading 2000 feet up there, climbing right turn to 3000 feet and back into the procedure again. We have a reading on nav radio 1, that means that the ILS is identified. And what we'll do as soon as we make that right hand turn, we have to monitor this gauge until this one reaches 9 miles. That's where we should start our turn for the ILS. So what I'll do is I'll switch to heading mode, set altitude to 3000 feet, select indicated airspeed mode, close down the power levers, switch nav 1 as the primary source and set full arc, so we have a nice clear gauge to intercept the ILS. It's only 2 miles to go. And here the airplane already starts its turn, so let's just reduce this one to 3000. Indicated airspeed mode, close down the power levers. And 3000 feet is coming up already, so increase power to reduce that rate of descent. Close power a little bit because now we have to start to decelerate as well. Let's select the current heading 148. Press heading select, select nav 1 as the primary source and make that a full arc. And as soon as this one reaches 9 miles, that's when we'll start a left hand turn to intercept on the ILS. So 3000 feet, that constraint is already met. And then we will descend further to 2300 feet once we are into that turn at 9 miles. So let's further reduce the speed so we can start selecting our flaps. You can start extend your flaps when your airspeed is 180 knots or below. That's the maximum flap setting for flaps 5 till I thought it was 15 or 20. And then You have to be below 140 to set it to 35. So right now the airspeed is dropping. It's 170, so flaps 5 selected, 6 miles out. And with the speed at 160, let's set flaps 10. And increase power a little bit. Let's already lower this one to 2,300. 8 miles out. And here we are at 9 miles out, so left turn. Course 349, that's 30 degrees intercept. Oh, increase power just a little bit because the speed is dropping very low now, flaps 15. Speed is stable at 145, altitude is stable at 3,000 feet. Let's start to descend now to 2,300. Oh. Close the power levers a little bit. Try to keep that speed around 150. Check 2,500 feet. The localizer is now alive, so let's select nav mode. That will have the airplane establish itself on the localizer. So we are now, localizer is now captured, so let's dial up the heading to the runway heading, which is 319. 6.8 miles out, 2,300 feet. Glide slope will start to intercept any second now. Oh, let's increase power. 140. 6 miles out. Gear down. Glide slope is alive. Set flaps 20. And flaps 25. Select glide slope. That will have the airplane intercept the glide slope. Close the power levers a little bit to keep reducing speed. 130, so set flaps 35. And let's aim for a landing speed somewhere around 120, 110, 120 knots. So let's decrease speed a little bit more. There we are. And we're breaking through the clouds. Runway is in sight. Visual with the runway, so let's disengage the autopilot. Cover your ears, this is quite a large or quite a hard sound. And there we are, pilot has control. Now landing this airplane is actually quite difficult in my experience because the airplane has quite an excessive nose down pitch attitude on final approach. So especially the flaring part is quite difficult because you have to make quite a significant input on the yoke to flare. But as soon as you do that, the airplane has a tendency to start climbing again. So I'm aiming a little bit low on the glide slope to have a little bit more space to actually flare the airplane. We have a crosswind from the
Approaching.
right.
3-2.
3-2 is verified and correct, which is approximately a 10 knot crosswind from heading 010, trying to blow us off course. So landing checklist, gear is down and locked, flaps 40, missed approach heading is set, missed approach altitude is also set, cabin is ready, exterior lights on. And here we have that.
Glide slope.
I know the glide slope warning, that's intentional because of the flaring.
Glide slope.
Scenery, Leeds by ORBX. Beautiful scenery with a nice sloped runway.
Glide slope.
200.
Glide slope.
100.
Glide slope.
Continue landing.
40. 30. 20. 10.
And braking. Try to vacate at the next exit. There we are. Well, that didn't feel like a very bad landing, so let's just check it from the outside in a minute. Vacating the runway. And enter the apron here to the left. Let's raise the flaps. Taxi lights on, landing lights off, probe heaters and anti-ice off. Flight director off. Set the FMS as the primary source with the map display. Oh, and let's press this one out. 58 minutes, a little bit less to complete our flight here. So let's turn right and park somewhere in this line of airplanes. I think next to the Ryanair is a good spot. So this is Ryanair, so let's turn left at the next parking spot. Landing lights off. And let's park here at stand 11. Nice marshaller in place. And here we are. Let's take a look at that landing from the outside perspective.
Bay 1000.
The city of Leeds in the background. Look at that nice sloped runway. It makes it incredibly difficult to land here in X-Plane. What didn't seem too bad, but it was a little bit bouncy. But we made the first exit, which is always a good thing. Only should have followed the yellow line down there, but let's just see where we actually touched the ground. It was at the beginning of the touchdown point, but we bounced. And we placed all 3 wheels on the ground at the same time. But like I mentioned, flaring this airplane in a way that the nose gear is up, you still have a small rate of descent without the airplane lifting up again. That's actually quite difficult with this add-on. At least I find it quite difficult. But also very challenging. So let's set the parking brake. That's now done. We can switch off engine number 2. Engage the ground power. That's now on. Close engine number 2. And anti-collision lights can switched off. Fasten seatbelt signs off. Engine bleeds are off. Fuel pumps off. And the generators off. And with all this set and done, we can then open the passenger door or the cabin door. And put some static elements in place. And that, my friends, concludes the video for the Carenado Fokker 50. We flew from London City to Leeds Bradford. I really hope you liked the video. If you have any tips, tricks, comments, questions whatsoever, please leave them in the comment section below. I'm not a professional pilot, so there's a lot for me to learn. So if you saw any mistakes, please point them out to me and also explain how to do it right the next time. I hope you liked it. And as we really enjoyed some footage of that beautiful ORBX Leeds Airport scenery, which is truly, truly stunning. I'm about to say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again another day on another flight. That's it for today. Thank you very much, and bye bye.